Hello students. I'm Sonali Kelkar from City International School, and today we are going to do our new chapter, How do Organisms Reproduce. Here we are going to do the subtopics reproduction in animals and plants, then reproductive health and methods of family planning, HIV and AIDS, these are the sexual caused diseases, and childbearing and women's health. So these are the subtopics that we are going to study, children. Before I start this chapter, I want to just tell you one thing. Control and coordination is deleted from your syllabus. That is why we don't have to do control and coordination. So henceforth we are going to do this chapter, how do organisms reproduce. Okay, so let's start the chapter. Now, before we discuss the mechanism by which organisms reproduce, let us ask a more basic question. That is, how do organisms reproduce? Okay. After all, we know that reproduction is not necessary to maintain the life of an individual organism, isn't it? That is not necessary for the maintenance of the life. Even if a person doesn't reproduce, he can survive, isn't it? So unlike the essential life process such as nutrition, respiration or excretion, right? So on the other hand, if an individual organism is going to create more individual, a lot of its energy will be spent in the process, right? So a lot of energy is spent in the process of reproduction. But still we need reproduction. Why do we need a reproduction? Why it is so necessary? We all know that it is a very important process by which a living organism produce new individual, right? Let's think, if a species of any plant wouldn't reproduce, or let's take animal wouldn't reproduce, can we able to see them around us? No. The first animal itself, when it die, there is no other offsprings, okay, which is produced by that animals, and that species will extend, that organism will extend then and there after the death, right? So the things, the varieties of plants, the different varieties of animals, different species of animals, right? It is present, you can able to see them only because of the process of reproduction. So it is very essential for the continuation of the species. Clear, students? So is it essential for, it is essential for reproduction, ensure continuity of life on earth, right? Because of the reproduction, the life is continued on earth. Then we have new type of species added to the pre-existing species. How is it possible? We will see soon. Okay, then the dead organism are replaced, right? Once the organism die, then what about its own kind of other organism? Okay, so its own kind of other organism, let's say the blueprint of his type of organism, is remaining on the earth just because of the reproduction, right? Now let's go to the basic of reproduction, right? What is the main part of our cell is involved in the reproduction? Okay, so these are nothing but chromosomes, right? Chromosomes in a cell contains the information of inheritance of feature. How do we get the blueprint of our type? Right, blueprint is something which have same type of structure, right? Human beings, definitely we have a same type of structure, right? We have two eyes, one nose, two ears, lips, okay? We have one particular type of structure. Cats have its own type of structure, right? Bat has its own type of structure. Fishes have their own type of structure, right? You don't have to identify that which type of fish is that, but you can identify, yeah, this is the fish, this is rat, this is cat, this is dog, right? So this is because of the similar type of structure, and that is possible when that is possible because of the chromosomes present in the cells, right? Now what is there hidden in this chromosome? In the chromosome there are DNA, right? DNA, okay, uh, which has certain proteins which we call genes, right? And genes are something which take care of your trait. Let's say trait means the height, color of your skin, and your nose structure, lips, right? Curly hair, straight hair, right? I'm taking example of human beings. You can take example of pea plant also, but that we are doing in the next chapter, right? So or the basic structure of any person that depends upon the genes, which are nothing but the protein. So genes is a specific type of protein which is present on DNA responsible for a trait. Okay, students. So this is a basic information about chromosomes and DNA. I'm going to tell you in detail, right? Now the basic events in reproduction. What happens in reproduction? Okay, so reproduction involves copying of DNA. A DNA is copied during the time of reproduction. Why they are copied during the time of reproduction? Because new daughter cells are going to form, right? So that is why there is a copying of DNA. So number of DNA start increasing as soon as the cell starts dividing, right? Here when I'm talking about the reproduction, which division I'm talking about? You did division, two type of cell division you did in your ninth grade. One is mitotic and the other one is meiotic division, right? So we are going to do meiosis here, right? And the copying of DNA and other cell apparatus, right? The copy will be similar to the original and not identical. Now what is the difference between the words similar and not identical? Similar means its basic structure is same, but identical means even the single and minute things or the minute chemicals which are present in the two individuals are same. So that is identical. But during the process of reproduction, these two copies, let's say the two individuals, okay, which are the result of reproduction, they can be similar in structure, but they are not identical, right? Each and everything, every minute things, it is not identical, right? Two siblings are not identical. Even in identical twins, they are not exactly identical, right? So that is that is the difference between the similar and identical. These two words are how they are different from each other. Now this because of the reproduction, because of the two individuals are not identical. Okay, why they are not identical? Because the DNA which is getting replicating during this process is not exactly chemically similar, right? There is some chemical change in these two DNAs, and definitely when there is a change in on the basic level, definitely you will see this change in the individuals. Probably you won't see in first and two generation, but these changes, these variation keep on accumulating, and you will see these changing in the further generation, and that leads to evolution of living beings, right, students? And there also can be the changes which are accumulated for many years, and these changes may give rise to a different species, right? You can see the similarity between cat family, that is cat, tiger, lion, leopard, right? They have some certain kinds of similarity, right? So these similarities are there, but still there are variations. So these variation is not overnight variation. These variations are accumulated, okay, during these type of division, and then a different species comes in the at on the earth, right? So this is what is a variation. We are going to study deep about the variation. Here comes the binary fission. Here I have shown you a binary fission, mitosis and meiosis, right? Why I have shown you meiosis here? Because the meiosis is the one type of division which is responsible for the reproduction, right? And in this process of reproduction, we will take sexual reproduction, right? Because the sexual reproduction, you will see variation very fast, right? The variation can be seen, right? So that is why we are taking sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, we won't see any type of variation. There's not much variation. The two daughter cell is exact copy of the mother cell, right? So they are just like clone. But in case of sexual reproduction, you will definitely see variation, because if you take an example of yourself, it doesn't look like exact, you're not an exact copy of your parents, okay, either of your parents. You're somewhere in the mixture of that, okay. So let's see the basic of reproduction. Here there's a meiosis, okay. Here in this cell, we all know that meiosis takes place in germ cells, okay, or in reproductive cells, right? Now in the first phase of meiosis, you can see there are 1 2 3 4. Basically we have taken 4 chromosomes, right? Because we cannot take 46 chromosome here, so we have just taken a 4 chromosomes to understand the concept. So if we say if we see here, this is your mother cell, right? From this there is the first phase of meiosis. In the first phase of meiosis, there is a reduction in chromosome, right? So if you see, there are 2 chromosome going to the either side of this cell. Now this cell, you can see the cleavage over here. This cleavage will get deepened, and definitely you are going to get the 2 cells here. Here are the 2 daughter cell, right? So this first phase is known as reductional phase in meiosis, where the number of chromosome have reduced. And how much they have reduced? They have reduced to half. So from 4 we are getting 2 daughter cells, and each daughter cell are having half the number of chromosome, right? And these chromosome, right, we have taken this particular cell over here, we have taken this particular cell. So from this particular cell, what I'm getting here, I'm getting a 2 type of cells having the same number of chromosomes, right? So these are nothing but these are the 2 gametes formed from this particular cell. 2 gametes formed from this cell, and definitely from this cell there will be 2 more gametes formed. So at the end of meiosis, I'll be getting 4 gametes. These 4 gametes can be sperm or they can be ovum, right children? So I have taken only this. Over here we have seen there is not a reductional division, it is an equational division. Equational means even the daughter cells are having the same number of chromosome what the mother cell is having initially, right? So chromosomes are formed. Now this is the sperm, okay. Even the sperm is having 2 different type of 2 sets of chromosome, and the ova is having the 2 sets of chromosome. If you see, they have shown these chromosome with different color. So why have they shown this chromosome with different color? Because they have different chemical constituents, right? The chromosomes are not same, they are different from each other, right? And these chromosomes, when after the fusion of the 2 gametes, that is sperm and ova, we will get a zygote, which will be having the same number of chromosome what the mother cell was having. So to retain the same number of chromosome, this process meiosis is very important, right? So if we take an example of human being, we all human beings have 46 number of chromosomes, right? Only during certain kind of variation, only there is when there is a mutation, it is a sudden change, a person will have probably 47 number of chromosome or 43 number of, or sorry, or 45 number of chromosomes, right? But these the number of chromosome which is caused, which is different in the individuals, this will definitely going to give impact, and that person will suffer with some genetical disease, right? So that's not a normal condition. Okay, so we have done more about the reproduction. So let's see some more things, which is the fundamental of reproduction. Okay, the reproducing organism, that is parents, procreates a new individuals. The individuals so produced are similar to each other. I have told you there is a difference between similar. The outer structure is same, but internally there are different changes. There are different chemical changes. Okay, there are changes in their genes. They are not same, so they are similar, but they are not identical. Uh, Now, the similarities occurs because of DNA, the basic similarities, the basic structure similarities. Why this is so? Because of the presence of DNA, right? Now, what is DNA? DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. And why it is so important? Okay, why? Because it is the blueprint of all basic design of organism, right? The cat looks different, a bird look different, fishes looks different, human beings are look different, but all human beings, they have a basic similarities. All fishes have basic similarities. That is because of the presence of DNA. DNA carries genes, and genes carries the information about the trait. Okay, the DNA is present in the nucleus. Now, where is the DNA located? It is present in the nucleus of the cell, okay, in a form of condensed structure called chromosome. Now, reproduction at its most basic level involves making copies of DNA. With the help of biochemical reactions, cells build up copies of DNA. Then DNA present in the nucleus of the cell act as an information source. It helps in making different proteins, okay, and cellular machinery of cells, which makes up the different body design. Now, all this thing which I have read, I'm going to explain you with the help of this diagram. Clear, students? Now, if you can see here, they have written that DNA is present in a nucleus. Okay, so let me draw one small cell, right? Okay, here if I draw a small cell, this is a cell, clear? And there is a nucleus inside the cell. Inside the nucleus, you will first of all find in a interphase. During the interphase, this is the normal phase of the cell, you will find chromatin fibers. What you will find? You will find chromatin fibers, right? Now, these chromatin fibers, okay, they are made up of DNA, right? And these chromatin fibers, when this cell, okay, when this cell will reach towards cell division, when this cell is preparing for the cell division, what will happen? These chromatin fibers, they get densely coiled. Okay, they will get coiled densely, and they will form chromosome, right? They will form chromosome. Now, as we have already read that chromosome is made up of DNA. Now let's decoil this chromosome. We have a chromosome here, right? This chromosome, I'm going to decoil it. Okay, so if I'm going to take one part of the chromosome, and if I'm going to decoil it, right, what am I getting? I'm getting chromatin fiber. Okay, it's just like a thread, that a small piece of a thread that you are removing from a wool, right? It is just like that. So if I decoiled chromosome, I'm getting chromatin fibers. Now let's see, we will simplify this chromatin fibers also. Okay, there are histones. Okay, then this 8 histone wind by the DNA, that is called nucleosome, right? And when I decoil, again I'm decoiling it, I'm getting a double helix structure. This is what is my DNA. So from this diagram you can understand that the DNA, okay, that DNA is the basic unit of heredity, right? DNA is a basic unit of heredity. My chromosome is basically made of DNA, right? Now at the time of cell division, what happens? If you can see there are double helix, right, double helix. Here this particular helix got breakdown, right? Here this helix got breakdown, right? And these helix are made up of nitrogen base, clear? And these nitrogen base, they will also break down, okay? Nitrogen base will also break down. I don't want to go in detail here. They will break down, and what will happen once this single helix break down, automatically there will be a formation of other helix here like this, and this, from this there will be a formation of other helix, right? Now you can see from one single DNA I got two set of DNA, right? This is how DNA replicates. This is called replication, right? Producing their own type of structure. But sometimes it happens because these are the chemical changes. These are the chemical changes which is occurring in DNA. Sometimes this happens that the chemical changes are not similar. There are certain changes, there are certain variation in these chemical changes, right? And because these DNA are basically a hereditary unit, so definitely the changes which have come to you from your parent, they will get differ. There will be a certain differences, right? It happens that two parents having a grayish iris, or let's say the black Irish, and the child will have all of a sudden a blue one. Okay, the color of iris change, right? So there is certain kind of mutation which is happening in the body of the two individuals, and it happens that it showed in one particular generation, right? So that is called a variation. Okay, so these variation is due to the chemical changes that took place during the replication of DNA, right? Okay, now what is the importance of DNA copying in reproduction? The importance of DNA copying during reproduction are, yes, it is responsible for the transmission of parental characteristic to the offspring, of course. Then during DNA copying in reproduction, the changes occur due to the inheritance of trait. So whatever changes occur during the process of DNA replication, that change is definitely going to taken forward in the future generation. Okay. So this is one of the question given in your book, and the answer is given here. So these changes will definitely help in the evolution. Though this evolution you won't see overnight, it will take many years, right? Now this evolution is due to the changes in the chromosome. Now that changes is what do we call this type of changes? This is called variation. Now what is variation? Variation means there are change which occur in a sexually reproducing organism because of error in DNA copying. As I told you, when the DNA copies, it is a chemical reaction, and no chemical reaction can be exactly same, right? There are certain changes in that chemical reaction, and that changes will definitely lead to the variation. Now how this variation is benefited to species? In certain cases these variations are very helpful for the survival. Sometimes it has become very advantageous, right? In case of adverse environmental conditions, right, a species which has where there is a variation, and which has different type of which have different type of characteristic which adopted which help that species to adopt in that particular environment, in the particular new environment, definitely that species will survive and the rest of the species won't able to survive. Clear? So variation help species in case of adverse environmental condition. We know that the climate, the weather doesn't remain same. It shows changes, right? The variation is important because it causes evolution. Evolution is also very important, right? uh, as we can see, the fishes are the first vertebrate we have done, right? Last year you did. Fishes were the first vertebrate, and from fishes amphibians evolved, and from amphibians the reptiles and aves and human beings, right? So human beings are the most evolved animal on the earth. There are definitely other mammals also, but being is the most evolved mammal. Okay, so the evolution is basically it is due to the variation. Now it is advantageous to the population, right? Population means few sets of suppose there are few sets of bacteria which can adapt themselves in a high temperature, so that bacteria has advantage over the bacteria which cannot adapt themselves in a high temperature. So due to the global warming, the bacteria which cannot adapt themselves due to the change in temperature will die, and those which can adapt themselves, they will survive. And this adaptation is due to the variation in their genes. Okay, so but there can be a variation which is drastic or which is slow, right? Drastic variation, if there is drastic variation, if there due to any kind of nuclear waves or atomic waves, okay, ultraviolet waves there can be, which can change your nuclear configuration, so that can be a fatal for individual, right? So variation can be slow, can be drastic. Slow variation are always useful. Drastic might okay, lead to the death of a particular individual or a population, right? So this is an example of the bacteria which I have already discussed with you. So you can read this later on. This example is regarding the thermophilic bacteria. Thermophilic bacteria, these are the bacteria which can resist high temperature, right? Very high temperature, in fact, right? So because there is a change in their DNA, they can able to survive in this drastic environment, right? And the rest of the bacteria, they wiped out. How do organisms reproduce? We know that organisms reproduce by asexual reproduction and by sexual reproduction, right? Asexual reproduction, it involves single parents, right? So no gamete formation takes place. In sexual reproduction, right? In this, two parents are involved, gamete formations takes place, right? Two parents of different sex, right, male and female, they are involved, and gametes are formed. Sperm and ova is formed. Meiosis is an important step in sexual reproduction because meiosis takes place in reproductive cells, right? They doesn't takes place in the other body cell, which are called somatic cells. Somatic cells, in somatic cell, mitosis takes place. Okay, meiosis takes place in reproductive cell. And where are these reproductive cells present, children? These reproductive cells are present in reproductive organs, and that too primary reproductive organ. For example, testis in male and ovary in female. So children, let's do different type of reproduction, that is asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction in detail, right? So the mode of reproduction in which new individuals are formed from a single parent. Here, in sexual reproduction, two parents are required. The cell division is either mitotically or amitotically. Amitotically is a very simple type of binary type of division in which one cell directly divides into two cells, right? This in this sexual reproduction, cell division involves meiosis at some stage. New individuals are identical to the parents, right, in case of asexual reproduction. In case of sexual reproduction, new individuals are not identical to parents. Asexual reproduction, variation doesn't occur, and in sexual reproduction variation does occur, right? Because there are intermixing of chromosomes. Then asexual reproduction is a faster mode of reproduction. This takes place in bacteria, and you know that bacteria reproduce how fast, right? And sexual reproduction, this is a slower mode of reproduction, right? Asexual type of reproduction you can see in amoeba, hydra, flatworms, many plants like rose, potato, onions, right? And sexual reproduction you can see in human beings, dogs and cats. So let's see sexual reproduction in detail, right? Now the sexual reproduction, there are fission, budding, vegetative propagation, regeneration and spore formation. Now coming to the fission. Now in fission we have binary fission, right? Binary fission is, as the word suggests, bi means two. So in this case what happened? The organism, okay, the mother cell divides into the two daughter cells, right? There will be a chromosome increase in the number of chromosome, then these chromosomes, the nucleus, because chromosomes present in the nucleus, right? We know that, right? So nucleus will enlarge, okay, number of chromosomes start increasing in nucleus, then it will divide into two half, okay? So first nucleus will get divide. This is known as karyokinesis. Karyokinesis, and then the cytoplasm divide, that is known as cytokinesis. Kinesis means division, right? So in any kind of division, first the nucleus will divide and then the cytoplasm divide. So this is called binary division because there are two new daughter cells are formed. Now binary division, it takes place when there is adequate amount of food and moisture available, right? So binary division takes place in favorable condition, right children? And multiple fission. Now multiple fission, in this a unicellular organism reproduced by multiple fission. So there are so many small nucleus will be formed. Nucleus will be divided into very small daughter cells, right? Daughter nuclei, you can say that. Nucleus will divide a one whole, this is a cell, right, inside a nucleus, and this the nucleus will divide into very small daughter nuclei, right? And there is a cyst form around the cell, right? Why? Cyst forms around the cell whenever the conditions are unfavorable. The cyst will protect this nucleus, and as soon as the conditions become favorable, this cyst will break and these nuclei will be spread in the medium, in the body, in the atmosphere. If it is a parasite, definitely it will spread in the body of a host, right children? So this multiple fission, as you can see, this takes place in unfavorable condition when the conditions are not favorable. So okay, this takes place in plasmodium. Have you ever heard about plasmodium? This plasmodium is a malarial parasite, right? Okay, now anti-amoeba undergoes this process. Anti-amoeba, these are the protozoan again present in intestine. Okay, during like if you eat some contaminated food, this anti-amoeba grows into your intestine, and it grows over there and causes different problems in your different stomach related problem, digestion related problems, right? Now how does binary fission occurs in amoeba, right? As you can see here, this occurs in 4 different stages. Okay, this is the parent amoeba. What happened in this, you can see there is an elongation of nucleus. So nucleus get elongated, and you can see there is a cleavage developed in the membrane. Okay, the cleavage is developing in the membrane of this amoeba, and slowly this cleavage will, okay, will get deepened, and here you can see this nucleus has finally divided into 2 small nucleus, and this is the division of nucleus karyokinesis, and then definitely the cytoplasm will also divide and you will see the 2 daughter cells. So this is what is a binary fission takes place in amoeba, right? Now, binary diffusion does takes place in Leishmania. Okay, Leishmania, if you can see here, yes, there is a division of the nucleus. First, the nucleus is divided into two, right? And then a cleavage is developed here, right? Nuclear division, there is a nucleus division is followed by the appearance of the constriction in the cell membrane. So if you see, this is the constriction which is appearing in the cell membrane, right? Now this the membrane grows transversely. The membrane is growing transversely. It is growing transversely, right? And transversely inward from near the middle of the dividing cell. Okay, this cleavage will go up. This cleavage is getting wider and wider and dividing this organism into two different halves, right? Into two different daughter cells, right? The cytoplasm separates into two equal parts, okay, each with one nucleus. And here comes the multiple fission. As you can see here, the single nucleus, you can see the cyst is getting developed around this cell. The cyst is getting developed around the cell because the conditions are not favorable, and one single nucleus has divided into so many daughter nuclei. There are so many daughter nuclei here. There are so many daughter nuclei here, right? And once the condition is favorable, this will break and these nuclei will, okay, released from the cell. Now coming the fragmentation. Now in this fragmentation takes place in Spirogyra. This Spirogyra get mature. Once it get mature, you will see it divided. It get divide into fragments. You can see the fragments, right? So it divides into fragments, and each fragments will grow into one individual, into a new individual. Okay, this is seen in Spirogyra. Now coming to the budding, budding is again example of asexual type of reproduction. As you can see here, this is the picture of yeast, right? Now you can see the outgrowth of yeast here, right? This outgrowth is developed due to the repeated cell division. Due to the repeated cell division, you will see the outgrowth in a parent body, right? Okay, these bud get detached from the parent body when it get mature. When it was a small here, slowly you can see this got mature and this bud will get detached. Here they have detached. This is bud and this is the parent body, right? And this get detached, and then it forms into a, it will develop into a human, it will develop into a mature bud, right? Mature organism. You can see budding in hydra and in yeast. So the first was example of yeast. This is the example of yeast, right? And the other one is an example of, this is an example of hydra. Right, students? Now hydra also, you can see this is the mature hydra. You can see a bud over here. This bud will get mature first. Okay, it will get mature first. It will get mature, and as soon as it get mature, it will get detached from here and it will grow, okay, as a individual. Regeneration, and in case of regeneration, parent if cut, if this is my parent, this is the parent planaria, and okay, this is parent, fine. Now there is a cut, maybe because of some accident, right? This organism has cut into small pieces, planaria, and each piece will develop into a single individual, right? So this takes place in planaria as well as in hydra. The other example of hydra was budding, and this is the example of regeneration. So in hydra, we saw two type of asexual reproduction. One is budding, the other one is regeneration. This takes place in flatworms also. Tapeworm and flatworm, if you know, these are the worm present in the human beings, in the body of human beings, even in the body of animals, pig, right? So tapeworm present in pigs, and if you eat uncooked or less cooked, undercooked food, uh, flesh of pig, then definitely these tapeworm will enter into one's body, and then they will start dividing in the body, right? So these two are parasite, right? Endoparasite. Clear, students? Right? So here you can see there are new body, a new individual is coming out the from the different pieces of the parents, right? This is called a regeneration. This is called regeneration. Now coming to the spore formation. Now spore formation, as you can see here, rhizopus, okay, and in the rhizopus, the spores are present in sporangia, right? Sporangia. Here you can see the sporangium, singular sporangium. The spores are present in sporangium, right? So this is a bulb-like structure which are covered by a thick wall that protects them until they come in contact with suitable conditions. So when the conditions are suitable, this will get burst, right? And as soon as the sporangium, you can see here, if the sporangium bursts, you can see there is a release of spores, right? The spores are released in the environment, okay, under favorable condition, and then they will germinate, okay. So this is the spore formation, okay. This takes place in rhizopus. So students, this is all about today's session. Practice today's topic, write proper notes in your notebook with a proper diagram. So that is all about today's session. Thank you so much.